6 kilometers, 17 turns, 12 hours, 3 car classes. This is the Sebring 12 hour. Me and my teammates ran the event and here's how we got on. It might not be the hardest circuit on the calendar. Sebring is mostly flat and there is quite a lot of runoff, and it's not particularly long either, but this endurance event posed a challenge that I had yet to face. Up until now, I'd raced on iRacing exclusively in dry conditions. There was no rain on the surface until this race. Not only would it require more skill to get around in one piece, with adjusted braking markers and safer lines having to be made around the big bodies of water, there was now a huge element of strategy that would now have to come into play. Knowing when to go in for tyres or not is something that I had absolutely no idea about, and I'd have to adjust and learn, alongside picking the class and car that would suit us the best. The Sebring 12 hour is a multi-class event, meaning there are 3 different cars all racing at the same time on the same circuit, running their own races. I've driven GT3 almost exclusively up until now, and we have the additional choices of LMP2 and GTP. Both are faster, higher downforce prototype machines that lack ABS and take a lot more skill to drive at all, let alone on the limited hours of time I have to practice. We decided to stick with GT3 for this one because it would be pretty stupid to try a new car class alongside the new weather too, and I was running this race with the SRG boys once again. Our bronze team, comprised of myself, Andrew and Brad, was on the lower end of the skill ranking, coming in at an average of around 2000 iRating, which is a fraction the iRating of some of our teammates who'd also be running this race but just in a different split. Before I got into the sim, I watched a load of lap guides on YouTube to get an idea of where I would need to be braking, at least in the dry. I had greatly underestimated the sheer difficulty of Sebring. It's bumpy, it's unforgiving in a way that I really just wasn't expecting. Nailing the braking points and trail braking is absolutely crucial to achieving good and safe lap times at Sebring. I tried the Ferrari, the car that I'd used in previous races, and it started to click. It was a shock to me that switching to this car really made as big of a difference to my consistency as it did. I still wasn't 100%, but I was a hell of a lot closer, and after some coaching with one of the SRG mods and watching some more track guides, it was time to start practicing in the rain. Andrew and I ran a couple of 2-hour 40-minute IMSA Enduros as practice, and let's just say they didn't go exactly to plan.
Where are you going? What are you doing? What are you doing?
But we took away 2 things. We had decent pace for our split, and we just needed to keep the off tracks to a minimum. IMSA had some open and closed smaller races on that are less than a week away from the 12 hours, so I was able to take part in a few of those. To cut a long story short, they didn't quite go to plan, achieving a couple of top 6s, but really nothing beyond that. Some unlucky moments and some stupid moments on my side of things too led to some pretty unfortunate results and a drop in iRating, but I was overall more confident that I could show up and do a job in the dry. It's race day and we get ready to qualify.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you went out on
Mode on.
tyres.
Shut up, did I?
No, you didn't.
Oh, fuck.
And he put us in P25, so we had some work to do if we wanted to make even the top 10. The first part of the race was an absolute bloodbath. After a little spin during the formation lap, putting us down to near enough last place on a 50-car grid, Andrew then went to work climbing up the field to around P30 in his first stint. Cars were dropping out left and right, and though we did have a few little excursions of our own, there were no meatballs and no serious damage. Each stint would work out about 28 laps or around an hour of driving. Brad got in the car for the second stint and gained us a handful of places too. Though the track was still wet when he left, it started to dry out around 15 laps in, and he decided to jump out of the car and we switched over to the dry tyres. So I went out after Brad's stint in the dry, and though I did have my own set of obstacles, it was mostly a good stint with decent pace, and actually I felt quite confident. A far cry from the start of my training journey at least. I even made a fair few passes, including the leader, which absolutely boosted my ego, though I was quickly put in my place by entering the pits and mispressing my pit speed limit button. I gave the team a 40-second stop and go penalty, which went down just about as good as you'd expect.
You fucking...
But still, P13 ain't bad. Andrew then served my stupid penalty as he was next up, and he thoroughly enjoyed the dry conditions. In retrospect, starting in the wet and then going to the dry is probably the better transition, and the extra grip was massively welcomed. Andrew had us in the top 10 by the end of his go in the car, which was massive considering where we had come from. If you saw my Bathurst video, you probably know what I'm about to say about Brad. His pace was exceptional, he kept it clean, and his consistency was mega. He set the new fastest time for our team. He came in after his stint and added some more fuel and went back out in the dries until the inevitable turn in weather reared its ugly head. And when it did show up, it was my turn to drive, and to be honest, it went pretty well, at least at the start of the stint. I was relatively consistent, didn't have many moments, and actually quite enjoyed myself. The boys just stayed quiet and let me concentrate because they know I have issues concentrating. But as the stint went on, lap by lap my concentration took a bit of a hit, and I was losing control all over the place towards the end of it. As someone who doesn't drive in real life and hadn't done heaps of laps in the rain, the mental and physical toll it took was an absolute shock. Towards the end of my stint in the wet, it genuinely felt like I was going to pass out, and I came in early to minimise the risks of more damage on the car and more off tracks in our session, but we were back down to P14. It wasn't looking great. Andrew picked up my pieces and went for a chill drive in the rain. This was a shorter stint, but he did get us to the end of that raining period and picked up some places in the process. I'd gone for a cold shower and some light food to try and increase my energy levels because, like, genuinely I thought I was going to pass out, and I was just getting ready to get driving again. Before I got back in the car, Brad went out and absolutely smashed it. I feel like a broken record talking about him at this point. This guy is a class act. And when I did get back in the car, it was 100% dry, and I was ecstatic about this news. It was so much easier than the insane rain that we had driven in before. There was grip, the car was predictable, and I went out keeping things simple, staying consistent, and again felt pretty confident and comfortable. Energy levels were up, and we were back in the race. For the 10th stint, Andrew went out and you could just tell that he was in his element. He was already quick on the first lap, he was consistent, and he took us all the way to P7. The top 10 was looking likely, and the top 5 was looking possible, so we just decided to go for it. As Brad took his turn, the sun was setting in the game, and it was beautiful to see. The man was in the zone. He was quick, he made it look easy, he took the team's new fastest lap. They call him Rolls-Royce Bradley for a reason. This guy absolutely cooks with no complaints whatsoever. For my final stint, I had a strange technical issue where the game wasn't syncing to the server properly. Brad had also had this problem, but seemed to drive like a beast anyway. I didn't have the same luck, and I was 1 to 2 seconds slower than I really felt like I was. Towards the end of the stint, the issue alleviated itself, and as a result, my times did improve. Was it a coincidence? I'm not entirely sure, but it is what it is, and I kept it clean, so we were chasing that top 5 spot. We really wanted it. It had all come down to the final stint. Andrew jumped in, put consistent laps in, and we all went really quiet in the chat, to be honest. It was getting late, it was about midnight here in the UK, and at this point we were all quite tired. We noticed that the team Hits the Pace car was fuel saving like absolute mad. It looked like we could steal a spot here. They were running way slower than us, clearly on purpose to try and preserve fuel. Andrew was chasing and putting in some fantastic times, but just before he had to come in for his final splash of fuel, he hit the 50x maximum and we had to serve another penalty.
Oh, fuck. Sorry, guys.
This certainly wasn't his fault. I had personally contributed massively to that 50x total, but it is what it is, and we served it. For the final half stint, we were chasing that Hit the Pace kart team down. Andrew was far quicker than they were, and we were on the edges of our seats. The clock was ticking down and we were getting closer. It had come down to the wire. Andrew was on their tail, and on the final lap, it just wasn't enough. They pipped us to P6.
Unlucky, man. What an effort, though.
What a race.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, fuck.
But what a monumental effort, from back in 40-something place in the formation lap all the way to P7, almost P6. We had put in a hell of a shift. I could have done with not getting that pit speed penalty and spinning it 47 times in the rain, but those lessons have been learnt, and this is probably the best race that I have done to date. It was a brilliant experience, one that I absolutely will never forget. Thank you to my SRG teammates Brad and Andrew, they were just absolutely phenomenal. And yes, I did lose my deposit on that yacht.
You can get high with me, that's a deal, right?